So when your child doesn't have a pubic bone strike, or it's very limited, and or doesn't have speed, I need to cover these both. For Easton came to me, but these are things that we still need to work on. It's just not in his system. And I was actually just having, I just have another munchkin here who just had SPML, and one of the things that we're talking about, having movement lesson before versus after, which is fine. I mean, both are fine, but people think that certain movements just come out of air. And if you've never experienced them and you don't have a comparison to another movement, you're not looking to better a movement. You're looking for the deviations. So one of the recommendations I was, based on the hip x-rays, was to give him a little bit of a padding, and I want to explain that. But also what we covered here many a times, he moves too slow. We can't let him in those situations. So first of all, just like me, if you put me out on a flat surface, guys, I cannot put pubic bone strike. I've got femoral torsion, I've got messed up hips. So for me to come up and over like these gymnasts, it's not happening. I don't have the structure for them. It's pulling my knees off and it hurts. So this is how I have to sit. If I sit like this, I usually have to bring, again, alleviate the hip, and then I can come up and over, but I cannot sit like this. Many kids can't, especially if they have coccygealgia, femoral torsion, this kind of thing. You're not going to get straight back. So and on top of that, he moves too slow. So when he's doing, and you can see it on the video in the comments that you have, when he's trying to reach for the object, he's going at about this speed. And at this speed, you and I have better balance, not babies. Babies need this. They need to acknowledge the gravity right away. You and I can sit there and be little ballerinas all day long and have this kind of speed. You're never going to see a toddler do that. They need to work around it. So when you're working with the pad, I'm going to just get up and go back on it. Now this, whoops, if I sit on the pad, right, I can have a pubic bone strike. See, it gives enough lift off my legs, right, to allow for that. Now I know what a pubic bone strike is here, and I can do all of that, see, through my pelvis. But just because you give someone a lift doesn't mean they suddenly know what a pubic bone strike is. A child that's never had it is still going to be here. This is where, again, where you have all that course material, where you're bringing in and you're working with that pubic bone strike, because from here, and again, see, I proportionally just respond to gravity, right? When I'm here, and this is why I think one of the reasons why he's slower, in this position, where am I going to go? Right? I'm not in a position proportionally where, again, my hand should be right here for all fours. Now I've got gaps of information. I don't have the structure for the movement. So you really see that on that bottom video where he wants it, but again, because he doesn't have a pubic bone strike, he can't come up over his system. Even I can't, again, for my knees. But again, when I'm on something like this, right? See, now I can get over and reach for something and come back. I'm much more accessible for doing that, but just because he's never done it before, you can't just raise him up and expect him to get it. But from here, again, I can do all of these kind of movements, not as much here because, again, I've got hip problems, but I can be here. I know I can be here. I can do all of those kind of things where I'm working around my body. I can come back here, but again, guys, these are adult things, or comes later on in toddlerhood, but you're not going to see it in babies, right? That's why they do most of their skills going forward. But from that, we've got to work on the speed for him, because again, anything that he's doing like this, the fall is going to come in, because he just doesn't have that speed. And so that's what you're also supposed to be incorporated in with his system, to do all of that, to get into the all fours, to get into the crawl, or to get into the stand. Even the standing that you showed me, when you have the object, because you're going for the stand and it's so far away from him, you see him, he wants to do it. Cognitively, I'm not worried about him, but he's here. Even for an old person to do this, and now they got to touch this, and then from this stand up, there's no pubic bone strike. right? When a kid's doing something, they want to stand, but they want to go right in and hit that pubic bone strike. That's why they cruise along the couch, right? And I can show you here, right? From the taller table, a child will always be doing this. Because from this, then I can come up and I can do this. When you have this, well, where's my leg gonna go? I'm not standing on my feet in this position. So if I do this, I'm gonna fall down, right? Or I have to hyperextend. All of those kind of things. And that's what you're seeing. You want to have him where he's here working. And the kids do this till they're about, 10-ish, where they put their hands down. Now, adult can do this without the hands, right? And go to get up. But you will always see a kid doing something like this, right? And a more advanced pubic bone strike, I always do this, but I'm going onto a table and I'll knock it over and then you'll see kids do this too, and they'll start doing, because they're still working with that pubic bone strike, but they're hanging off the couch, and sometimes they're like watching TV like this, and and you're like, what are you doing, right? But that's when you have special needs too, because they're not going into these advanced pubic bone strike positions that they should be doing as they get older, and they're playing like this, and they're doing this, and they're playing around like that, and they're doing this, and that's what kids do. Or they'll snake it off, and yeah, see, I'm too heavy for my tables, and I don't want to knock them over. But they'll do stuff like this. This is just part of growing up. We don't see it as much anymore, unfortunately, because of cell phones and tablets. This is the stuff kids should be playing with themselves. They should be doing these things. And again, they can keep their eye on the prize when they're doing that. But again, the pubic bone strike doesn't go away because we age out, but it's very important in our development. So stick with what you're doing. The courses are good, but that's what you've got to increase the speed, and you're going to do it through your touch. I don't mean running, because running's not a milestone. You can't go faster. You can't have your touch go faster than where the child's at in their development. Thanks.